Welcome to Something Positive for Positive People. I'm Courtney Brain. Something Positive for Positive People is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that is the leading go-to resource for people who are learning to communicate about their sexual health. One of the things that we do is we advocate for the integration of people's lived experiences post having an STI diagnosis into sex education resources as a means of aiding STI prevention efforts. If you have not already, please visit www.spfpp.org/survey and take the survey. We are bringing this information in to understand your experience with antivirals, stigma, dating, disclosure, as well as partners and transmission, as well as just the whole dating and relationship experience that you might be having as someone who has tested positive for herpes. Something to note is that if you click the survey from the website, there's going to be a tiny blue box on the right side of your screen. Like, you will barely see it. Press that, and then it'll take you to the consent form, and you'll be able to begin the survey. A lot of people were having issues with this. I apologize. It's something that we are unable to get resolved. Most people will see that if you're trying to take the survey from a mobile device. All right. So today I have a guest with us. I don't think I asked you like what you want to be called or if you want to remain anonymous. You can. I have no reason to say your name.
I'm gonna go with Bette.
Okay. Bet. Bet it is. Bet. So you said you got herpes about a year ago?
About a year and a half ago.
Year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was diagnosed about a year and a half ago.
Okay. Yeah. And you and I connected. I was actually looking at this. And I forget what did I say? Somebody replied to something.
I started replying to your stuff, and it was because you used Canva to
That's
create
right.
a poster or a post or something like that.
Yeah. Interesting, because I guess I didn't even know like your backstory about your diagnosis. Because I always get people like who follow me on Instagram. I don't necessarily assume that everyone who follows me has herpes, and then I don't even know if this is like the first time it came up. Did we even have conversations about herpes at all?
No, I think I just made comments on the stuff you said, and I'm sure whatever I commented to kind of give you like a hint, like, oh, okay, cool, she's one of us. Like,
Yeah. All right. So I guess like for you, you said it was about a year and a half ago that you were diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what was going on for you around that time?
I mean, I drink a lot, but it's not that much. I do remember it. I was seeing this guy. I identify as polyamorous. And I was seeing this guy.
Say it proud. You said it low. Like, I identify.
No. I'm goddamn proud of it. Like, hell no. It's taken me years to get to this point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very, very happy to have discovered my true relationship style. Let's put it that way. It's been a long time coming. Like, I feel like I was practicing it already from a very early age. I just didn't know what the hell it was.
What do you mean by that?
I've never been able to be very devout in relationships and anything like that. Always had wandering eyes to some capacity. Like, always experienced a lot of love or care for whoever I was with, but it was never enough. Yeah. You know? So I always, like, my longest relationship before my ex-fiance was probably, like, 8 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like, I never had anything serious.
So when you say you kind of been practicing polyamory, I think that you had juggled multiple relationships, but you were still, even in your polyamory practice, you were monogamous in the sense of not having sex with other people, but were you...
Well, monogamish.
Okay, monogamish.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? Like, in your experience?
So there was still a lot of flirting and, like, a lot of maybe make out with people and stuff like that, but I would never push it past that if I was committed.
Yeah.
Air quotes, committed to somebody.
Yeah. That's funny because, like, I remember in high school, college, if you kissed somebody, that was cheating.
Right. I never really saw it that way.
Really?
I never did. I thought that was silly. I mean, like, there's nothing better than being able to kiss your friends. Like, everybody that I hang out with for the most part at home, we all say hello to each other with a kiss. Like, we pop kiss each other. God, I haven't used that term in ages.
And you're not, what is your ethnicity, if you want to go into all of that?
Oh, I mean, I was born in Cuba. We emigrated over when I was 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So is that just like a culture thing that you kiss your friends?
no,
Oh,
no, not at
because
all.
we'll kiss our friends.
No, 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 no. This is a new thing for, not a new thing, but it's a thing for me.
Yeah.
I've always been that way. I've
Mm.
had, there's just some friends that it just happens. Like you're just like, oh, hey, this is a show of affection or something, you know? But
Okay.
now it's a lot more common
Yeah.
for me.
Okay.
Because it doesn't, it's not that it doesn't mean anything. It just, it, it's no harm.
Mm-hmm. Like what it means is significantly different than what people might assume it means.
Correct.
Got it. All right. And you say that now you're in this place of being polyamorous and like this is who you are.
Mm.
And you were about to tell me about the herpes story.
Yeah. So I was dating this guy and everything was going great. Um, he did help me realize through it that I also had a stigma that was very, very negative, which makes no sense because I'm also a sex worker. But the stigma was he dated his baby mama was a stripper, and once I got diagnosed, the most negative thought that went through my head was, oh, it was probably him because he dated a stripper.
Oh, okay.
And I realized, like, through all of this and learning and growing up and everything, I'm like, that was the most toxic. I acknowledge the amount of toxicity there was in that statement, you know?
Well, let's not call it toxic. It's stigma.
Okay. I mean, I felt it was toxic to me to think
Mm-hmm.
of something like that as an open, sexually open and, like, queer person, but it wasn't a long lasting thought, but I kind of felt shame feeling that way, or that thought crossed my mind in the first place.
Mm-hmm. At this time, were you in sex work at all?
No.
Okay. So at this time, it was just like, oh, he's dating a stripper. He gave me herpes, most likely. Of course, this was going to happen. Like, those were kind of some of the thoughts.
Right.
Okay.
But at that time, it's kind of like a panic. Like, you don't know what's happening, you don't know what's going on. Um, like, you're doing the good work and working towards destigmatizing all of this, but because the reason I felt all of this is because of the stigma,
Yeah.
the social and economical stigma behind it. You know, so I found out after going to the emergency room because
Mm-hmm.
it was so much pain. I had uh, I had a genital outbreak
Mm-hmm.
and
Where was it? External or internal?
external.
Okay.
It was in the, for lack of a better way of saying it, in the gooch.
Mm-hmm.
It was that very small little area, so
That's
it like
such a funny word to me.
the
I tried to
gooch.
keep
I
a straight
know.
face. I tried to keep
No,
a straight
it's
face.
okay. The gooch is a fun word.
Yeah.
But it was in that area, and I'd never felt pain like that. And obviously, it's right where the skin folds all the time. And so it was really, really, really fucking painful. And I was like, I can't. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
So I go to the emergency room, and they have me laying down in the bed. Like, they put me in a room. Thankfully, it's not like one of those curtain ones. It was an actual room. And the doctor comes in, and she checks me out, and she's like, I think you have herpes. And I'm like, what? Like, my mood just dropped into like cynicism and cold, like just cold speaking, like just monotone, just like, oh great, fuck, one more thing I needed, kind of thing, right? And then something else that happened, and I'm very happy that I am the kind of person that I am, that I can just put aside what is I'm feeling emotionally just to get through that moment, and I can power through and then think about it later. But she goes ahead and she grabs another doctor to come and confirm it. And so now I have 3 people around me when I'm being diagnosed with herpes.
And they're just like looking at your vulva.
My fucking hoo-ha. Yeah.
Just talking about it.
Yeah.
As if you're not there.
Right. And like she's putting her, like, spreading my spaces apart and everything to kind of see what blisters were there or whatever. And I'm just like, cool. All right. Well, this is happening. And once they were like, okay, well, we're done with this diagnosis. We're going to give you these pills. We're going to give you this gel. It was like
Oh, they gave you a gel?
They gave me a numbing gel.
Oh, that's nice.
I know. I wish I had that numbing gel for a lot of other things.
Yeah, yeah.
It would have been great for tattoos.
You wouldn't be able to do that then, right? Like, cause you want the skin to be disinfected, and then you do the ink, right?
No, it's fine.
Oh,
It still permeates.
okay.
I did it on my chest piece. Like I put numbing cream on it,
Mm-hmm.
and it lasted all of an hour
Mm-hmm.
because the tattoo artists keep wiping. So it's exposing those pores even more, and so letting all of that numbing cream out. So an hour in, I'm like, well,
Oh,
here's the pain. I did this to myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like they're like, oh, I do remember this specifically. They're like, oh, we're gonna let you be so you can clean up.
What does
Like,
that mean?
so you can put your clothes
Oh,
back
all
on
right.
and
I
all
was
that
like,
stuff.
it made a mess.
No. So
All
you can
right.
put your clothes back on and all that stuff. And there was the nurse, this guy, and he comes back to me and he gives me like, I think it was like Tylenol or some pain med to be able to take. And he mentioned something, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. I'm just here sitting with a new herpes diagnosis that I didn't even know I had. Great. Fantastic. Like, just straight cold sarcasm. Like, hate my fucking life right now. Then he leaves, I get dressed, and I get all my prescriptions and stuff. And I just felt like I was in shock. I was just in shock. My house is a block and a half away from the hospital, so thankfully I was just able to go home. But I remember getting home and just sitting down on my couch and being like, well, my life is over. Like, that's it. Purely out of stigma. Like, I didn't really know. I've had friends. I already had friends within my groups that had herpes, and I knew, and they were very open about it. And but I never actually looked into it. I never asked them. I didn't think anything of them. It didn't change my outlook on them. I still thought they were hot, and I was like, fuck yeah. And then I was diagnosed, and it was all freaking crazy. And then, so I texted the guy that I was with, and I was like, hey, I need to talk to you. And
Ooh.
suddenly he just started acting dismissive in a way. He was like, oh, I'm doing this and this. And like the messages started getting lesser and lesser and stuff like that. And I didn't get to talk to him until like a week later. And I was like, hey, we should meet up today. I think I called him and he was in the shower. I was like, hey, why don't we go meet up somewhere? I'd really like to talk to you. And he's like, well, I'm about to jump in the shower, but just tell me what's up. And I'm like, no, I really think this is something we should do face to face, right?
He knew.
Well, so I tell him, and he's like, it's okay. It's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. It's going to be okay. I'm like, oh, cool. All right. So I was relieved. I was like, oh, all right. He didn't treat me like.
Oh, so your thought process was, oh yay, he didn't like yell at me or assume that I gave it to him.
Or, yeah, like it wasn't like, oh, that's gross or anything like that, right? And then he just basically slowly ghosted me.
Ooh, a slow ghost.
Mm-hmm.
That's a zombie.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
Yep. And I was like, you're a real piece of work. I went to town on him. Like, I sent him a really, really nasty, like, go fuck yourself kind of text.
Yeah.
Because I was like, really? Like, I'm going through something, and the first thing you're going to do is bounce? I've met your goddamn kid, bro. Yeah. Like, I deserve a modicum of respect, Mm-hmm. So whatever, that was over. I was like, he's probably the one who gave it to me. But when I went to my gynecologist, she's the one that really started kind of informing me more of things, right? She was like, let's issue the test. Although I do have to tell you that it's about 50% accurate. That's why doctors don't like recommending it and all that good stuff, right? But she was like, yeah, you have herpes. And I'm like, well, how do I know who gave it to me? She's like, well, we can do a test that can tell you if it's a recent transmission or if it's been in your bloodstream for like forever now, right? So I was convinced that it was this dude or the guy before him. Like, it was either one of them. Because I didn't know that the breakouts can happen whenever. I didn't know that it was a sporadic thing. Again, I was not educated. So took the test, and it turns out that it had been in my bloodstream for freaking ages. And I
Like
mean,
you got a high viral load antibody count test or something?
I don't remember what it was.
Okay.
I can probably pull it up in my medical record
We ain't gotta
app,
do all
but
that. No.
yeah. But it was one. She called me back and she was like, "Yeah, you've had it in your bloodstream for a while,
Okay.
or something like that." So I guess something just triggered it, finally, and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, never talked to the dude again, and I'm the better off for it. He was the type of person who didn't have any like didn't have any goals for his life.
Oh, okay.
That
Tell
kind
me
of
more.
thing. Like didn't have any motivation to do anything with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So I didn't lose anything.
Okay.
Any sleep over that one.
Yeah.
He's the one that I sent you a screenshot of the text messages that he came back.
I remember that.
It was that guy.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Okay, wait, actually I should probably mention
this. Let's do
He
that.
came at me saying that he was mad at me because I probably got herpes from being with other people because I wasn't monogamous with him and that it was my fault kind of thing. You remember the texts, right?
I remember
Yeah.
WhatsApp because they were WhatsApp texts.
No,
right?
they were just regular texts.
Oh, I forgot you got an Android.
Yeah. Don't be downing the Android community, man. We're still cool. Our cameras are better.
Y'all can keep y'all phones for. I mean, look, we're recording on an Android. Like
there you go. See?
I've had this phone for years, like pre-pandemic phone.
Man, the way that we say that now.
I know.
When we were younger, we used to keep phones for
BP. You know how you say BC? Now it's BP.
BP.
Before
pandemic. But yeah, this dude blamed me because I was not monogamous with him. And he was mad that I didn't just like want to settle down with him or anything. Mind you, nothing that he ever communicated with me. Like these are all things that he could literally have sat down and have a conversation with me and said, "Hey, I'm interested in being a little bit more involved." Or like have a much stronger relationship or what, like turn it into a relationship. And I would have been like, no.
So relationship is a trigger word for a lot of people.
Really?
Yeah, when we think about like how dating and relationships are today, I think that you have to be an emotionally strong person, because the cycle of dating, like where people are constantly getting ghosted, you have to protect yourself. And in a way, you sort of callous your emotions and you become emotionally unavailable just so that you can survive in getting a little hint of your needs met in the dating world. A friend of mine, he always says dating is dead. And I really do believe that like it's got to do with that. Because you've got people who ghost, you've got people who are exercising other options, you've got people who aren't upfront with their intentions, some people who don't know what their intentions are. And if you're constantly, going on dates and finding yourself in these like patterns or whatever, or even when you initiate a conversation or you're intentional about wanting a relationship, that might scare the shit out of somebody. And they're like, "Oh my God, I don't know what I want," and and they get into this like panic state. So I say all of that just to say like dating is hard, and two, like the emotional just toll that it takes. Mm-hmm. You gotta become a very strong and resilient person.
I actually have something I can piggyback off of on that.
Go.
So as I mentioned earlier, I was born in Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
So I was raised Cuban, which, not to down Cuban culture or anything like that, but like most Hispanic cultures, it's very male oriented. It's very
male dominated.
Yeah, okay. It's misogynistic. It's the woman has her place in the kitchen kind of thing. The woman runs the household with the kids, right? Yeah. And she's got roles that she has to fulfill for the man, right? So my current partner, which is so weird to even call them my partner because that's a trigger word for me.
See?
Like boyfriend and girlfriend are trigger words for me. Like it just means like
commitment.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Accountability, responsibility to somebody.
Right.
Yep.
It's like you've now not sold your soul to the devil, but like you are now somebody's property.
You're now an employee of someone.
Right. So when he and I first started dating, we became like officially partners.
Please don't say his name on accident.
No, I won't.
All right.
And like a couple of weeks after that official.
Who initiated the conversation about the relationship?
About what it was?
Yeah.
Oh no, we just started calling each other partners.
Okay.
In front of each other. That was kind of like the confirmation.
So it just like smooth went into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like, oh no, I don't think we're dating any longer. I think we're like official, kind of in each other's spaces more often than not, kind of thing. Still poly and all that stuff. That was something we did initiate. Like I initiated a conversation about let's figure out what this is. I'm poly. He was like, wow, I've been wanting to be poly my entire life. That's always that similar sense. Like I've been gearing up towards that kind of lifestyle.
And how old are you?
I'm 32.
And what's his age range?
Well, he turns 50 this year.
Okay.
Yeah. But he was super down not super down, but he was very, very like into the openness and the ability to explore and not feel bogged down by the social constructs of relationships.
By explore, do you mean have sex with other people?
Yeah, and still be able to enjoy other people and their presence, and whether it be sexual or not, and not have to worry about the consequences of any of that as long as communication's in place.
You know, it makes me happy to hear you say that, because I do believe that people hear polyamorous and they think sex, you know, for the most part, yes, that is a part of it. But I'm also figuring out, and you and I had a conversation about this, that like in a monogamous relationship, an emotional connection or being too close to somebody is threatening to a partner. Like even if you have a friendship with someone that you're not attracted to at all, but you just know each other, you get each other, your significant other might think that that person's attractive to you, and they're like, well, what else is going on here? Oh my God, this person's going to leave me. So what I've found is that in non-monogamy, polyamory, just the ability for sex to be on the table allows even those relationships where sex isn't involved to be to have much more depth to them.
Oh yeah.
Without it being threatening to someone that you are having sex with.
100%. Yeah. I totally agree. But to keep going on the piggyback, so like a few weeks after we had officially like had the sit down communication and had a wonderful time doing that, it started kind of tapping me on the shoulder aggressively, like, shit, you're somebody's partner. Like the cultural upbringing in me started saying, you have to provide. You have to provide. And like
you or
me,
you him?
Me to him. Like as the woman, I was taught that I am to provide sex whenever they want it, regardless of whether I want it or not. Like it is my duty as a woman to my man to fulfill that, right? As a partner. So it really started getting into my head to the point that it was driving me insane, and I ended up breaking up with him.
Oh. I didn't see that coming.
Yep.
Because this sounds so healthy.
I know. Well, I mean, it's been a process. Like it's a growing thing. So I broke up with him. That was weird. And I was supposed to go to a birthday party with him the next day. And I asked him after
you broke up with him before his birthday? You an
No,
asshole.
not his birthday.
Oh, all right.
One of his friends' birthdays. It was like a costume party.
All right.
God damn it, Courtney. So I told him, I guess he was in a state of shock, so he wasn't really thinking about it. So I asked him, like, do you still want me to go to that party tomorrow? I have no quarrels with it, and I'd love to be with you. Like, I'd love to still hang with you, you know? The friendship was still there. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. And then we got fucked up at the bar. As one does.
Y'all started making out?
No.
Oh, what?
No, legit. He went home, I went my own way.
Oh.
Yeah.
So this is like a respectful interaction even after a breakup?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, anyway, the next day, I get ready and I'm dressed up in my costume. I was a gender bent of The Witcher.
Okay.
Well, I was dressed as The Witcher. I was dressed as, God, what's his name? Well, Henry Cavill, basically. And so he sees me walking out into the Uber and he is just pissed. He is, like, you can feel his energy. He is fucking mad. And I get in the Uber and I'm like, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, paying me a compliment or anything. Usually he'd be like, holy hell, baby.
He
Like,
smacked you on the butt.
nothing.
Damn. But you broke up with him.
I know.
And he's respecting the relationship.
I understand, but he didn't know how to act either.
Yeah.
To me, it was like, no, we're still friends. We're still cool. Like, we can do everything we were doing already. Like, I'm just not your partner. Kind of thing.
Didn't even think about that. So y'all are still able to do everything. You just removed the label.
Right.
And the removal of the label gave you peace.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I think we go all of like 2 weeks like that. Where I was like, hey, you don't need to spend the weekends with me. We were still spending weekends together and like having fun and just hanging out, like wholesomely hanging out. And I was like, I'm afraid that even like we're not a thing anymore, but I'm afraid that you're spending too much time with me when you could actually be spending time with your friends and people who you care about.
Wow, way to downplay like your value and significance in his life.
No, I wasn't doing that. I felt bad that there's this man who is a wonderful, wonderful human being who is not, he's actively choosing to spend time with me. I understand that.
Yes.
But I also felt selfish about it because I'm no longer like his priority in my eyes.
So the removal of the label made you feel like less of a priority.
Like I didn't need to be that priority anymore. Okay. Yeah.
This is interesting because how often do we do that to ourselves? Like this is sort of a form of self-rejection and like I'm unworthy of this. You need to give what you're giving to me somewhere else. And that's what it feels like to me. I could be completely wrong. But for this man to want to be with you, want to be around you. And it's just like, this is just like an unconditional love and giving. And it's uncomfortable for you to receive it. Is
100%.
that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't deserve it.
Why?
Well, that's just my trauma talking.
Yeah.
That's my self-defense mechanism.
You've been in therapy, right?
Yeah, I've been going to therapy.
So we can like speak to this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, no, it's entirely based on my trauma.
Okay.
My trauma is daddy issues.
Yeah. Hey there, everybody. Hey, everybody.
Well, I feel like I'd like to think that most people, if not all people, have some sort of parental trauma.
Yeah.
Whether it's both parents, one parent, or the other.
Or the absence of parents.
Right, exactly. That's a big part of it too. There's a lot of ways that trauma can be incurred, unfortunately.
You know, I used to think you were a therapist for a while.
Me?
Or some type of, something in the realm of like therapy because of how you've spoken. But then you told me what you do and I was like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, it's just because I'm very self-aware and I pay attention to myself and I see a lot of the same behaviors. Especially now that I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and bipolar disorder. So it's like what I tell you, BPD squared.
Are you comfortable talking more about that?
Yeah. No quarrels.
So you very much seem normal. I know that there's a stigma to things and like what normal is, but like I wouldn't know that you were someone who had bipolar or borderline personality disorder. How would you know that you're having an episode?
Oh, right? Okay.
How would you know that?
A person on the outside wouldn't know unless you're with me 24/7.
Okay.
Like Sam knows. Sam picks up the
You
keys.
said his name.
Oh, fuck, whatever. It doesn't matter.
All right.
It really doesn't matter. It makes no difference.
All right. That's why I said it. I was like, you're going to say his name.
It's all right. It's really not the end of the world.
Okay.
It's not a thing where I need consent or anything like that.
All right.
It'll be all right. But he spends a lot of damn time with me. He can recognize it. He starts seeing it. Or I communicate. I'm like, this is starting to happen. And he starts taking the necessary precautions.
So y'all have that in place?
Yeah.
So, all right. The reason that I want to bring this out is because there, again, like stigma. And I think that herpes is one expression of stigma that we can all here relate to, but also there's this mental health component as well. I think that we believe we know what a person with herpes looks like, and we get herpes, and then we're like, oh my God, I'm that person now, right? Same thing as far as mental health things. We like loosely say someone is bipolar because they have a change in behavior, but that may not even be the case. Like when we talk about bipolar, we're talking about there's what manic and depressive episodes,
Mm-hmm.
right? So depression, you're low, manic, you're
Right.
up, hyperactive,
Yeah.
moving. And we falsely allocate these labels to people who it doesn't even apply to.
Correct.
And we think that because they're like what we may see, like I'm in Portland, Oregon, and I may see someone that is yelling down a street, like just walking down the street yelling random things, who looks like they might be homeless, and assume, oh, they got mental health stuff, right? So much of the conversations that I have taught me that you can't look at a person and tell whether or not they have herpes. And then if you talk to someone and you learn that they have herpes, it doesn't change anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like I want to be able to bring that same sort of thing into the mental health space just from having a conversation. Because, like, I wouldn't know that you had herpes. I wouldn't know that you had any sort of mental health illness, or I don't even like to say illness, mental health condition.
Yeah, that works out. Whichever one. And
it's just like you just take medication and you stay at baseline, right?
So, yeah. It's funny now going through therapy, being medicated and diagnosed and all that stuff. It kind of helped me really solidify what was going on. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, all the time I was self-medicating. I was a bartender. I was self-medicating a lot. Like my shifts were 4 days on, 3 days off, and 4 days of nonstop drinking, and 3 days to recover, just to do it all over again, right?
When you say self-medicating, can we talk a little bit about how you use the analogy?
That was when I was younger.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll go there later.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it really doesn't make a difference. It all connects. Uh-huh. You know, my trauma incited that part. So what I'm talking about is essentially, you and I were talking about this, and it came up on our ways to torture ourselves, is a better way to put it, right? Our ways to punish ourselves, right? And this is possibly a trigger warning.
Trigger warning.
Trigger warning of emotional cutting. Well, physical and or emotional cutting. And it took me.
Physically?
Huh?
You did it physically?
Well, that's what sex was.
Oh! I was talking about the cutting.
No. My version of cutting, because it is an emotional thing. It's to distract you from
the emotional pain.
From the emotional pain that's happening at the moment, right? Yeah. Rather than the physical. So mine was to have sex. Mm-hmm. Like sex that I didn't even really want to have. I just had one night stands all the freaking time when I was younger. And I didn't recognize it then, that I was doing it as my own form of emotional cutting, so that I didn't have to think about all the other things, you know? Mm-hmm. But it's, yeah. Anyway, so my diagnosis was wonderful, and I got put on meds, and I started really realizing what the signs were. It's like, oh my God, this is what I was doing, and I didn't even realize it. Like the symptoms were all there. I had no idea. I was like, why do I do this?
Why do I emotionally cut or have sex?
I mean, that started dying out. Okay. It was more like my behaviors at that point. It was like, why can't I change this? Mm. Why do I keep going around in circles and do this same thing over and over and over again? And it all is a roller coaster. Until I finally got the diagnosis and was treated, and now I can actually spot it as it's coming. So even though I'm medicated, I'm a lot more mentally here and aware of how my body and mind feel.
So the medication helps you be present?
Yes.
Okay.
It also helps me balance out.
All right.
So the medication brings about the balance of the chemical imbalance in your brain. Mm-hmm. My borderline personality disorder is a trauma response. That's not a chemical imbalance. Yeah. So the only way, to answer your question, the only way you would really know if somebody has a mental health issue is if you're in their brain. Okay. Because it's all internalized for me.
What is borderline personality disorder?
I like to equate it to, and this is subjective to my experience.
That works. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to equate it to imposter syndrome, where you don't think you really belong anywhere, and you've had to grow up in an environment where you've had to adapt your personality to fit situations. And when you start really delving into it in trauma, at least for me, what's happened is I don't know what my true identity is. I have
That's
no
pretty
idea.
deep.
No idea. No clue. Still to this day.
Okay.
I struggle significantly with it. My therapist and I talk about it quite often. Because in my head I'm this person. But there's certain things that I'm like, who is this? I just click right into it. I find myself in social situations where I'm like, in my head, I'm like, why are you talking this way? Why are you doing this? You don't care for this. This is not you. This might be a really good thing to point out, because I've always felt very lonely in this. I don't know who I am outside of drinking. I am not good at going to bars and not drinking, because I feel like I don't have a personality until I start drinking, and that's a big part of it. Like, since I don't have an identifying personality or a core personality, so I think I drink when I'm at a bar because that's who I am. I'm the fun person that everybody expects.
Yeah. You can keep going. I was about to take a note.
Oh, okay.
For when to make the edit.
Okay, cool.
I was trying to scratch it into my hand and just write 36, but I couldn't do it.
I was wondering what you were doing.
Yeah.
Your skin isn't that ashy. You're good.
It's not.
That's good. That's good for you.
Yes. All right. So, and I appreciate you explaining the way that you did what borderline personality disorder is, because you can Google it and you'll see the definition, but I think that we all use our own words and ways that help us understand things significantly better. And this, as a conversation, this like podcast episode conversation that we're having, is something that I think it's like speaking different languages to different people. Like for me, I know that I can hear the same thing 10 times from 10 different people, and it'll be the 11th person who says it at the right time when I've had the right life experience that matches up to where I can receive the translation.
Yeah.
That's what this is to me.
Oh, because it's kind of opening up a path for you to understand it a little bit further.
Correct.
Because we're on the same wavelength now.
Yes.
Like if I would have told you this when I was 24,
wouldn't have got
wouldn't have clicked.
I've been looking at you crazy like, oh.
That's too deep. Just take a drink.
Right. You just mentioned that you were queer, and so much of this podcast speaks about identity. You said that borderline personality makes you feel like you don't belong, or imposter syndrome, yet you were able to tell me that you're polyamorous, that you're queer, that you're a sex worker. This sounds to me like you do know who you are, or you at least have these aspects of your identity when it revolves around your sexuality, at least. Can you speak more to that? Do you know who you are sexually? Do you know who you are not sexually?
That's interesting. That's actually a really good question. Do I know who I am?
Oh, say it again. I love hearing that.
What? That's an interesting question?
Yes, it's such a good question.
It is. Because of the word are. Like who you are. Mm-hmm. Do I know who I am? No. Do I know what I am capable of doing and behaving in? Yes.
Oh, that seemed like a much harder question to ask.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like, I know I am capable of being this polyamorous person because I understand the groundwork. I understand the inner workings. I understand all of that, and I'm able to act upon that. Same thing with being queer. I recognize when I'm attracted to a person. I identify as pansexual, so if I'm attracted to you, I'm attracted to you. There's no hidden meaning, science, or anything to it. And the same thing with sex work. I know what I'm capable of. I know what I'm able to swing. I know what sexuality means to me and all of that. But I don't necessarily know. Maybe an outsider would say, oh, they know who they are. You know, but deep down, I don't. Because I have so many different facets. You know, I'm this person who wants to sit at home and play video games all day. but I'm also the same person that wants to go out and be the center of attention, like we did at Comic-Con, you know? Or I can also be this person who just wants to go sit alone at the end of a bar and just watch the crowd. That's actually my favorite thing to do. Is go to a bar by myself, sit by the bartenders because I'm a woman and I need to feel safe, and just people watch. Being alone in a crowd is the most zen thing for me. I'm an extrovert, but with introverted tendencies. And as my healing journey continues and my mental health journey continues, I come to find out that I'm starting to recognize the moments where I've had too much. It's like, okay, this is too much interaction. This is too much masking, which is a big part of it. It's exhausting. That's a part of my borderline personality disorder, where I mask to get through the situations. It's a trauma response. So sometimes masking can get exhausting. And I'm learning more and more how to pull myself from that and excuse myself from the situations and say, hey, this is wonderful. Thank you so much. I do have to step out now and take my time. You know? Yeah. But that's why I'm saying, there's no real way for me to quantify who I am because I don't have a core who I am.
Is not having that core of who you are what makes you have borderline personality disorder?
Oh, a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Actually, a lot of it. Oh. Yeah, because there's no, like I said, I don't know who I am. I don't know which of the 20 personalities that I can portray, show, mask, whatever you want to identify it as, that is my real one.
So I'm giggling because you just reminded me of this. It wasn't a joke, but this joke an ex of mine told me. She was like, "It's a good thing you're polyamorous because I have 7 different personalities." I laughed for about 10 minutes, dying. I was like, "That is the funniest thing I've ever heard." And then a little bit of time passed, and I saw that she wasn't joking. All her personalities were not okay with polyamory at all, and it showed. Yeah, that relationship didn't work out, obviously, but yeah, it just made me think about that.
I mean, I relate.
Yeah,
I can relate. I totally can. I mean, I still to this day have multiple personalities that I have to deal with. Mm-hmm. The struggle for all of this, to an outsider, is look at her, she's so cool, or look at her, she's so well put together.
You hella cool.
Man, shut up.
You know you are though. The leather jacket. You ride motorcycles.
Whatever. It's just I'm the biggest dork.
The hair
it's
is
all
what
the
makes
front.
You look so cool.
It's all the front for this tiny little child inside me that's hidden in a corner. I'm trying to bring this child to who they could have been had they been.
You all right? I'm not a therapist, but it doesn't look like that's what's happening. It looks like that child is playing.
Right, I'm pulling that child out. I'm giving that child the childhood it deserved. When you say pulling that child
out, it sounds like you're forcing yourself into being this person that it is being received as you being so effortlessly you. What I'm saying is it looked like the kid's having fun. I see it in other people's interactions with you.
Oh, really?
Yes. Just from being even at the Comic-Con, being at the bar, and how the bartenders interacted with you, the people that you talk to, yeah, that kid ain't chilling in the corner sad. That kid's playing. That kid might be do that at night or when you go to sleep or something. Maybe just finds solitude going into the corner, and that's when you're like, come on, we gotta go play. And that's you until you get your coffee. You get your coffee and then the kid's yay.
I'm definitely feeding my inner child nowadays.
Yeah. That's so important. That's going to be the title of the episode.
Feeding your inner child.
Totally.
Oh, I love that. Mm-hmm. I mean, you want to hear a beautiful experience that I had?
Sure.
When I took the MSF course, which is the motorcycle course, to get my my endorsement and learn how to ride. I went back a month or 2 later because I was in negotiations for my motorcycle, my current motorcycle, and I was going to buy her. And this was weeks after I ever rode on one that I controlled myself. And there I am riding Raven around and trying her out.
Do I need to delete that your motorcycle's name is Raven?
No.
Okay, thank you. I'm running out. I'm running out of like brain
No,
space to remember what to delete.
no, you're good. No, so there I am riding Raven, and I am on this stretch of, it was like at a kart racing area where they also do drag racing and all that stuff. So they have a big area, like open space to run around basically.
Fun.
Yeah, so I was able to really like ride her to her full potential. Well, not to her full potential, because I was not hitting like 90 miles an hour on that, but
no, I can't say that's what she said.
it.
You like added too many details in there.
But just to close that story out, as I'm riding her and testing her out, I started crying. I started legit crying. And it was because I had come to the realization that, like, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it right now. Like, 19-year-old me would be so proud of me right now for doing something I've wanted to do my entire life. You know, and it's weird. I was terrified of it all. Like, if he was here with me, like my partner was here with me, he would tell you how miserable my learning experience was. Because through my trauma, I was supposed to be perfect from the get-go. That's part of the borderline. Like, whatever I touch, I have to be perfect at. But, so it was a miserable experience. And I even told them, I was like, this is going to be really funny a few months from now. Because I'm going through this. I'm having panic attacks, full-on panic attacks, wanting to slam my goddamn head into the wall and hurt myself before I wanted to get on the motorcycle and do what I needed to do to learn. Like, my first rides, I had to pull over after 3 blocks and start crying because it was overwhelming. It was ridiculous. Like, and now I'm just like, let's go. Let's go on rides. Now it's the thing I look forward to, waking up at like 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning just to go on a motorcycle ride for like 3 hours. You know, it's amazing. But yeah, so I was doing that and I started crying because I was so happy. Like, I really started thinking 19-year-old me would have been so proud of me right now. It's an out-of-body experience when you kind of see those things happening. And I still have times where I'm like, oh, yo, I did that. Like, I'm doing it. Like, I'm doing this shit, you know? Like, I'm fulfilling things for myself that I've never been allowed to. I've never been allowed to let go. I've never been allowed to have a true persona. And now I'm starting to discover it. Do I have a true identity? I don't know yet. Am I 100% cognizant and aware of how other people perceive me? Yes. They perceive what I want to give out. If I'm comfortable enough, I don't care. You're going to see everything. You know, like, you've seen so many different sides of me already while we've been here.
Mega Man.
Stop. Bruh.
This has been, first off, I want to thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thank you. This has been really cool to see, you know, just from what you say, your development of getting to a place where you're the kind of person who can be proud of yourself. You know, like you say how 19-year-old you would have been so proud of you. And you got on that motorcycle and every 3 blocks you had to pull over and just cry because of that, right?
Well, I was crying because of the panic attacks from being afraid.
Oh, God, I thought you were crying because you were happy.
No.
Oh, I heard that wrong.
No, I was crying because I was terrified.
Yeah.
Like, shaking before I get on the motorcycle, terrified.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. It was bad.
Well, that makes this even better then, because the motorcycle can be a metaphor for putting yourself out there to find a partner after a herpes diagnosis, right? Like, it's a scary thing to potentially have to go through, and yet we have to get on the motorcycle and ride it enough before we have the confidence to go down the street. You know, maybe we only get 3 blocks right now. Maybe we make it a little further. Maybe now we get to a place where we can go 3 hours on a motorcycle ride, right? And what that just looks like is, okay, you're going to have to not cry when you say herpes, not be mad at yourself, not have regrets for getting herpes, whatever that means, for not sleeping with that person that you think might have gave it to you, for not making whatever decision you think you made to get to that point. And you do those things, and that's you literally, or that's you metaphorically getting to a place of being able to ride the motorcycle. But like, you're not going to be able to go on a 3-hour ride right away if you can't even start the motorcycle.
Right.
You're not going to find your wife or husband or partner if you're unwilling to do the thing that is, saying, hey, I have herpes. And then be willing to deal with whatever the response is to that. Like, I don't think a lot of people really think that. I think that everybody has been conditioned to have this sort of instant gratification. Like, even on the dating apps, you swipe right on somebody that you find attractive, and you expect for one of those people you swiped on to match with you and go on a date with you and to give some up, you know what I'm saying? And get to a point of it getting to what you want. And that happens a lot sooner now with a lot less effort than something like practicing getting on a motorcycle would. So we have to apply that same sort of like knowledge and experience that we have in another thing that we've done and that we've gotten good at or practiced and we failed at and we got better at, but we were committed to. Apply that to putting yourself out there into finding the kind of relationships that it is that you want. I rode the shit out of that motorcycle metaphor, didn't I?
Yeah, you definitely decided to run with it.
Yeah.
At like 80 miles an hour.
Oh yeah, you totally revved me up for that one. My favorite joke from Comic-Con this weekend, okay, I hope people get this. So there was Carmen Sandiego and there was Waldo together, and somebody pointed out the irony of it, and I was like, oh, all we need now is a werewolf. Right? So where's Waldo? Where is Carmen Sandiego? Werewolf. It's a different where, Like not W-H-E-R-E, but W-E-R-E. So it was kind of like a, not euphemism, what's the word? Homonym?
What's a
homonym? Homonym.
Anonym?
It's not a homonym. Anonym is the opposite.
I don't know. No, bro, you lost me on that.
No, listen, this is good. This is a good
Sure,
yeah. This is really good.
We'll let your listeners decide.
No,
it didn't hit with me.
It's my podcast. I don't care.
It didn't hit with me.
Everybody at the table laughed.
Did you see me laughing?
Yeah, you gave me that face.
I was like,
that was so good that I can't laugh, and I'm not going to stroke your ego by laughing.
I don't think that was
That's
really,
what that
you
face
misinterpreted that, but you're welcome.
But everybody else laughed.
I was supportive.
I think they just laughed.
I was just supportive.
They saw me in them tights. He can say anything. He funny.
Where's my super suit?
Oh my God, I got that so many times. So I was Mega Man at Comic-Con this year, and it's a sky blue suit. I had on blue like tube socks, blue forearms, blue do-rag for the helmet, and then like blue shorts, like covering up the like boxer genital butt region.
He needed it.
And I had a cat. I put a pillow on my forearm to like buff it up so it looked like the cannon blaster. Mm-hmm. I kept hearing people say, "Where's my super suit?" And I was like, why are people saying that? Like, who are they talking to? I didn't know anybody was talking to me until it got to the fourth person who said it. And I didn't say anything. Me. And I asked you about it. I was like, where's that from? Because I know I heard it somewhere. I just can't think of like who said it. I thought Incredibles. So I was like, yeah, Incredibles. And I was only thinking of like the main people. I was like, the husband didn't say that. And then you told me that it was Frozone. Frozone?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Frozone. And so I found a dude who said it. Because I was like, I don't want him to think I was being an asshole. So I walked up to him, I was like, hey, was it you that said, like, where's my super suit? He was like, yeah, I didn't think you, like, heard me. I was like, oh, I heard you. I just didn't know you were talking to me. I'm Mega Man. And it took for somebody, like, I heard that a few times. And we ended up talking. He said, oh, man, I'm sorry. I was like, dude, nothing to be apologizing for. Like,
right.
Yeah, it was just... I didn't get it. Now I know that people probably think that I'm Frozone because it happened a couple more times. People were like, where's my super suit? I was like, haha, yeah. But I hold up my blaster hand and hopefully threw him off. But anyways, yeah, that was what happened.
Well, this is something positive people. And I do have to say that after my diagnosis, there was a brief period where it was an absolute like hell for me.
Tell me more.
I started doing research.
Oh, I thought she was about to say drugs.
No, I was so my gynecologist, after she like did the test, she was like, I'm really afraid for you. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, you're already in a rocky mental state, and I have a feeling this is going to send you over the edge. And I'm like, well, you're not wrong.
Okay.
She thought I was going to do something really intense. But I ended up Googling resources and things like that, and I found your podcast. And honestly, listening to everybody else's stories really helped me kind of come to terms. Plus, with my own experiences, right? I started disclosing. I was like, better out than in. This is the only way I work through it. Like, when I have problems, I talk about them and I kill them by talking about them until I'm like over it. And I kept disclosing. I was disclosing to my closest friends, my family. I mean, my entire family doesn't know. My mom knows, and I'll get back to that because that one's interesting. But none of my friends saw me differently. Nobody really pointed anything else. Nobody was like, oh my God, or anything like that. Even when I go on dates and I start like flirting with people, when we start planning to meet, I already tell them, I disclose immediately. I'm like, hey, my time is valuable, and I'm sure your time is valuable as well. So I kind of want to put this out on the table for you. I have HSV1 genitally. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, or if you need any further information, I can guide you to the correct resources and stuff like that. But I don't want this being a shock in any capacity, if at all, down the line, and you're like, well, damn, now I just wasted my time with somebody I'm not going to sleep with or interact sexually with or whatever. And I have not had a single person turn me down. Like, it's been rewarding, to say the least, to have people who are like, yeah, cool. So how about them dolphins? Like, just keep the conversation going. Even in sex work, I really thought it was going to be a hindrance, and I have had no issues. I disclose right up front with any collaborator I'm going to be working with. This is what's up. None of them say anything. Like, cool, thank you so much. I've had people thank me for disclosing, because they're like, a lot of people wouldn't even say anything. I'm like, yeah, I'm not a lot of people. I would want somebody to have disclosed to me in the past, because I would have used preventative measures. Or I would have been like, well, tell me more about that. Like, tell me the risks involved. Tell me this. Tell me that. My mom, however, she doesn't like to even mention it. She truly sees a shame and like your dirty thing to it. And she's got herpes as well. She's got oral HSV. And she's like, oh, I have a little herpes. And I'm like, oh man, mom, you're having a herpes outbreak. And she's like, shh, don't say it so loud. Like, I can't talk about it out loud. I can't. God forbid my grandparents find out. Like, I tell her, I've gotten into fights with her. I'm like, why do you talk about it in this manner? Like, you're just adding to the stigma, which could have really put me in a bad place if I was in a city or a state, or shit, if I was back in Cuba and this happened to me, I would have been like the nasty woman, like the goddamn witch in the house at the end of the block. I would have been isolated, ostracized, and just deemed like, yeah, like gross. And it's taken a lot of fighting mentally, and it's made me learn that I am tougher than I look, and I can go through emotional trials and tribulations and manage them much better than I ever really expect. But my issue with my mom is pretty prominent, because I want her to I want to break her social stigma of it. I really do.
We can't save everybody.
Yeah, but it's my mother.
I know. We can't save everybody.
I know. Yeah, but I also don't want to live like that.
Yeah.
I want to be able to tell my mom, hey, mom, I'm having a herpes outbreak. Make me feel a little better. Like, tell me something encouraging.
Yeah. But she didn't have that. So, like, you can't expect for her to be at a better place than you are. Not better. Better wasn't the right word. To be at the place of willingness like you are. Like,
right.
I would love to be able to go to my mom for support, because, like, your mom has always been this thing to you.
She's my best friend,
And
yeah.
now you want for her to be this thing to you in this particular way.
Right.
But it's something that she hasn't had given to her in a way. So it sounds like you're hoping to be able to give that to her and be that for her so that she can also be that to you. And I love that you've told your mom, because I think that people be sleeping on the power of telling someone who you trust, know, love, and like, right? Like, people will always talk to me about herpes and they'll always tell me how good they feel afterwards. And it's like, I don't know you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I'm very low risk. Like, imagine how you would feel telling someone that you know, love, and trust and have a history with, and seeing that they don't treat you any differently. Like, I know that I'm low risk because I'm a stranger on the internet that people might feel a little bit of a connection to. But at the end of the day, you know, if you have to compare telling me to telling your sibling, telling a parent, and if you get the same reaction, if you get no response from me, if I'm just like, all right, well, take your medication, like, that doesn't carry near as much significant weight as somebody in your life who you value them. Like, you don't really value me as a person. People value me for what this podcast is, initially at least. That's how you found me. Whereas the connections that you have with your family, friends, partners, that's the connection comes first. And then, like, you get to tell them, hey, I'm dealing with this thing. And then they're like, oh, well, let me support you. Their support means way more than what mine can ever mean, because mine is designed to get you to a place where you will talk to your mom about it, or you will tell that close best friend,
Right.
and that you're struggling and that you just need some support, because they can validate your identity much better than I can, because all I got to go off of is your social media profile pictures, if you even had that.
Right. Yeah. No, it's a lot. I haven't disclosed to my dad.
Why mom, not dad?
My dad and I's relation. Well, remember I said I have daddy issues. Our relationship is tumultuous.
Okay.
I love him to pieces, and I've forgiven him for all the shit when I was a kid. I'm also a strong believer in had things not been the way they were, I would not be who I am today. I have no regrets. Not even one letter. No regrets.
I thought it, but I wasn't.
No regrets.
Not for the podcast.
But I don't keep up with him on a regular basis. I call him on birthdays, holidays, and maybe randomly throughout the year just to say hi. Yeah. He'll do the same. I saw him for the first time this past holiday season after 5 years.
I was about to say, you what?
After 5 years of not being in each other's physical space. Okay. My dad has no idea that I'm queer. My dad has no idea that I have herpes. He doesn't really know much about my life. I keep him on a need-to-know basis. Okay. Yeah, I've barely told him the trips that I take back home when I'm there. But that all falls into the whole, stigma. Which is funny, because he had hepatitis. And I'm like, you a dirty bastard. But it was because he's a drug addict and all that stuff. So all of that kind of fell through.
So here, when we talk about dirty, when we say, you said dirty bastard, what'd you say?
But it's a stigma.
Yeah, right. I know. I want to make sure to just be clear on that. Like, I don't want people thinking that we're using dirty out of context.
No. Yeah. He when you're a drug addict, there's a lot of stuff that goes down.
I know.
Right. Yeah. So it was, and also it's my dad, so I can talk about him like that.
You sure can.
But that's part of that stigma thing we were talking about. Like, I don't want to disclose that to my dad. I don't feel like my dad has any interaction in my life enough to even have to know that or deserve that, right? Mm-hmm. Deserve that transparency of me with him. Yeah. But yeah, overall, from thinking that my sexual life was over, that I wasn't going to find anybody or be loved because of it, out the goddamn window. Yeah. Completely out the window. And I do have moments where I'm like, how would my life be otherwise? You know? Oh, one of the things that I have a concern with, we talked about this briefly, play parties.
Let's talk about it. Yeah.
Well, amongst a plethora of other reasonings where I have not issues, but concerns about being at play parties, one of them is having to disclose to a large group. to put yourself in that space to a large group of possible people you've never even met.
Yeah.
And that's a little nerve-wracking.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
So, play parties are all different. This has been a question that's come into my inbox and from people, partners as well. And one thing that is consistent is that if there is a play party in place, one, a lot of the people there already know each other. Like you're inviting, it's more intimate. Um, so the conversation may be a little bit different among people who are known. And then you might have to tell a couple of different people if you're wanting to play with them. There's one. Another thing is that there's like a debrief, like an elevator pitch beforehand. You go around in a circle, introduce yourself. Like, what are some of your don'ts? What are some of your
consents? Yeah.
Needs? Yeah, consents.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you already know that. But like, there's a way you kick the door in. Hey, everybody, I have herpes, right? And announce it to the whole living room, and everybody's like, all right, yeah, cool. So what, right?
Right.
I've struggled with this as well personally because I am someone who is interested in exploring group play. And one of the things that like scares me is, and this is some people pleasing thing that is happening. It's like if someone is seen playing with me, then it might be assumed that that person has herpes, and then no one's gonna want to play with them in that.
Never even thought of that.
Well, you're not like open and out there about it. So like
right.
me being, I don't want to say it's like sex education, sexual health, celebrity status, having herpes. Like I'm a celebrity among people with herpes who know that I have herpes, right? And outside of that, like in an area, play space, like there are people who know because I'm open about it. I talk about it. Like going to an event. So for instance, I was at Sex Down South and I had this thought of like, okay, well, if I'm playing with this person, are other people going to also assume that they have herpes and then not want to play with them? And it's like, oh, well, I would hate to be the reason that someone doesn't get played with,
right?
Because they're seen having sex with me. And I think that that's kind of where a little bit of my own resistance with like public play or like exploring exhibitionism or even doing anything like, what's the word I'm looking for? Exhibitionism, or like in like a setting where it would be completely acceptable to hook up, like at a conference type thing or whatever. Yeah, it's like that. Like if they see you come out of my hotel room, right? And I've thought about these things, and I think that, and I know that it keeps me from taking action in the direction that I want to explore and play around in. So it's so interesting, like how people will even look to me and be like, oh yeah, you're over the stigma or whatever. But it just shows up for me in ways that if you're not open about it, you will never have to think about. And it's super like lonely to have to think through because nobody can relate or they've never had these thoughts before.
Right.
And I look weird because I'm just not doing a thing that I should be doing, but I'm not doing that thing. And I want to be doing that thing, but I have this thought in my head of like, this is for the greater good of the environment. So let me just not do that.
Right.
It's weird.
No, I get it. That's actually pretty cool. It's slightly altruistic, which is super sweet.
I get on people.
The humanitarian effort in you.
I get on people about that though. Like people who only date people who have herpes, for instance. It's like they have this attachment of their identity to being the kind of person who is preventing transmission to other people. And it's like, okay, well, what makes you think you're any better than anybody else? Because you're just choosing, not even out of choice.
Oh, I never thought about that. Well, I haven't experienced. You have the open floor to be able to experience those kind of personalities.
And even the people who do it have never thought about it.
Well, isn't that kind of like the whole thing behind positive singles?
That, yes, like if everybody has it, we don't have to talk about it.
Right.
Right. Positive singles has a handful of dozen of other issues.
Well,
but
it's funny because I sought out to join Positive Singles, and then it was like $50 a month, and I'm like, what the fuck?
It's what?
I don't know why it popped up like that. It was like a monthly thing, and I was like, wait a minute.
It should have been something for like 3 months. I'm on there, and I have like my my profile's like here to just give support at this point. Like before I was dating, because I was resistant to being on there because I thought no person who is going to seriously be in a relationship with me is going to be on positive singles because like that's typically where your
The
starting
hookups.
point is. Not even the hookups. People go there looking for relationships, but I
Mm-hmm.
think it's more out of avoidance so that they don't have to um, deal with the herpes diagnosis. They don't have to
Or
ask about
disclosure.
it. Yeah. Um, and so, because of that, I think a lot of people bypass compatibility, religion, politics,
Yeah. Okay.
identity, because the priority is, well, we both have herpes.
Mm-hmm.
And you're accepting, I'm accepting, we don't have to think about it. And
Right.
like, you won't even think about the fact that, like, okay, you're super far away and you have to spend thousands of dollars a year to
Oh
see each other.
no. Yeah. No.
Or you might not want kids, but the other person does. And there's a lot of elements there that people just completely overlook or bypass altogether because well we both have herpes. So I say all that to say like I got back on there thinking okay well maybe I'm my own internalized stigma is believing that I should only like date out in the wild. If someone happens to have herpes, cool. If they happen to be cool with it and they don't have it, cool. But I just eliminated a complete segment of opportunities for myself to find someone to be in a relationship with.
Right.
And I'm doing the same thing that I'm telling people not to do. It's just the inverse of that.
Right.
So I'm telling people don't only date people who have herpes, put yourself out there. And
Right.
here I am, like, I only date people who aren't on this dating site for
Yeah.
people with herpes. So I've tried, I put myself out there, but the thing is, I keep running into the same issue of like, it's not that I have herpes, it's the fact that I'm open about having herpes.
You make
And
it uncomfortable.
it's very uncomfortable. And again, going back to what I said earlier about people having to protect themselves emotionally, like there's a lot of avoidance there. So my intentionality triggers people's avoidance. If I'm like, hey, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing,
There's
this is what
fight or
my life
flight.
looks like. Yes. But typically it's flight.
Right. Right. I don't have any quarrels with that. I mean, if somebody wants to, it's the same thing about my time is valuable. But
Yeah.
if I'm choosing to spend the time with you, I'm choosing to carve out time out of my life for somebody. It's somebody who's special to me, like somebody who means this trip. Like I carved out time for us to hang out. You know. Um. So if somebody is like, ugh, about the herpes or doesn't want to talk about it, doesn't want to acknowledge it because it's too much to think about and there's too many levels of it and whatever the case might be, there's no reason for me to be hanging out with that person. You know, I have my own priorities and I have my own mental health to worry about, and I am not responsible for other people's emotions.
Ooh. Oh, you're just responsible for feeding that inner child.
Yes.
Yeah. See how we brought that back full circle?
Yeah. I'm here for it.
But yeah, closing out the whole group thing and disclosing there, it's all going to be situational, and
It's subjective to the experience.
it is very. And I run this podcast and like yes, I encourage people to talk about their sexual health. I never tell people you need to do this or what to do, but here's like some things to think about. There are people who just don't disclose, who just don't talk about their status in these parties, and like I want to say that like just because you only date people who have herpes does not make you better than someone who might not disclose their
Right.
status to somebody. I think that there's a gap that needs to be bridged in understanding that this isn't about disclosure or right versus wrong. I think it's about access to information, the access to the information of how to navigate that discussion. Um, the survey results are coming in even as I speak now. Again, www.spfpp.org/survey. And you can participate. I want to run this survey through the end of 2023 and get as many responses as we can so that we have accurate information at a quantitative data level to be able to speak to people's experiences. But one of the things that came up is that a lot of people who don't disclose because they don't know how to disclose. And they also, they don't have the language or the how to of talking about their sexual health to partners. And that's ridiculous given the amount of information that we have. But typically these people don't know that that's an issue. And so, again, something positive. We advocate for integrating these lived experiences and sex education resources, which includes being able to talk about sex and communicate about sexual health. So, all of that just to say, like,
just try it.
Here's the information.
Shoot your shot.
Shoot your shot.
What do you have to lose?
Well, that's the thing. People feel like they're gonna like lose their lives or their identity just for initiating this conversation. You know, there's a lot of people who have been rejected several times in various ways, and then there's people who have gone on to get that one yes that leads to a marriage and a family. And me falling to the wayside and looking up 5 years later and seeing a person in an engagement photo or after having a kid and being married, I'm like, man, who is this person? I don't know this person. And then I go through our messages and I see the last messages that we had were, how do I disclose to this person? I'm so nervous and I don't know what I'm gonna do. So yeah, obviously.
Why'd you get so aggressive when you were saying that?
Because it happens so often. Like, I've been running this for like 6.5 years.
Are you
now.
bitter by it?
I'm a little bit bitter. Yeah,
okay.
I'm a little bitter.
That's what it came off as.
But like, I shared this with passion to say, like, it happens. Right. Like, there are people who do, you know, they stumble through here. They're miserable, suicidal, depressed. They are, you know, for the first time saying some things out loud, having some realizations, and then, you know, years go by and they're like, Mary, I'm irrelevant to them. And that's what that's why I do this work, because this has to happen, or I'm sorry, I have to become irrelevant to you in order for you to live your life. That is essentially like what this comes down to. Your relationship to herpes. I don't want to say I have to become irrelevant. That did not sound the way that I intended for it to sound. But the herpes itself has to become irrelevant. And this is a pathway to making herpes irrelevant to your life, because it's showing you all these different experiences, all of these different representations of people who have herpes, so that you can see yourself outside of what that box is that you close yourself into, thinking that you're only worthy of so little and less than the bare minimum. But the reality is, when you see enough experiences outside of that bubble, outside of that box, you start to fall into your own form of what you feel you deserve. And that's what something positive for positive people is at this point. How can people find your OnlyFans?
Well, just start with my Instagram and kind of get a little welcome there and see if you like the goods.
I was just trying to like let you plug yourself.
Oh, it's it's just basically / Bette menu meow.
I don't know how to spell any of this, so you got to give us more than that.
Oh, Bette like Betty, Bette, menu French for cat, MINOU.
Oh.
And then meow.
Yeah.
MEOW.
100%. So where else do you want people to follow?
You can find me on Instagram. I'm pretty active, like very active on there. You know this. It's just at Bette Menu, BETTEMINOU.
Cool. Is there anything else you got going on you want people to know about?
If you go to New Orleans, spend one day on bourbon, get it out of your system, and don't do it again.
I'm talking about you. Hey, that's New Orleans.
I don't know, but I'm a part of it, you know. Yeah, I don't really have anything else. I've got a lot of good stuff in the works. Really great collaborations coming up that I'm very, very excited about. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay.
Do I need to delete New Orleans?
Nah.
Okay. All right. So I have everything I need to delete, and it's just where you said your name.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. www.spfpp.org/survey. If you have not taken the survey, please do. Remember, there is a small blue box on the right side of your screen. Once you click through and start to access the consent form, you press that blue box button, and then it takes you to the consent form. You agree, or whatever the button is that it says to do next, depending on your device, and then you go through the survey. I think the survey takes no more than 20 minutes unless you have detailed responses that you want to give for some of the questions. Give us as much information as you're willing to, because this is what I take to these conferences and these workshops, and I speak to this. And it's getting to a place where people are beginning to include some of our experiences in curriculums. I've had two organizations reach out for me to review their curriculum, specifically when it comes to herpes stigma, and I'm able to put input in there based off of the information that you all are giving me, not just what I remember from podcast episodes and conversations that I'm having with people with herpes. So this is very important. In the perfect world, I would have 2,000 survey responses, and I believe that we are on our way there. But again, I need your help. So please share this survey. Take this survey. If you're in the support group, like, tell these admins, tell your favorite social media accounts, because I don't fuck with a lot of them either. So that's also important to note. So I'm not telling them to post this. You can do that. And if they don't fuck with me, you'll find out who they are. All right. All right, that's it, y'all. Please make donations and review the podcast. I've not gotten any reviews in, at this point, years. I don't know what's up. I always ask for them. People just don't review the podcast. So if you can, please take the time to go on whatever your favorite listening platform is, except Spotify. I don't think Spotify allows you to, but just leave a review. You know, let people know that you find this to be useful, how you find it useful. But you can always make a donation, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, or you can join Patreon at www.patreon.com/SPFPP. All right. And last thing, men's group. It should be, by the time this episode releases, it'll be out. If you're a man who has herpes and you're interested in joining that support group, I will have a paywall for that. I don't know what this is going to look like. I think that what I'm leaning towards is doing maybe one free one a month, but then for you to be involved with the weekly groups, that'll be through Patreon. I'm figuring out what that's going to look like, and I'll have that taken care of by October 1st. Let's see, this week, next week podcast. Oh man, it will have already been out. This, yeah. If you want to be in a men's group, you got to reach out to me. It's already up at this point. I'm speaking it into existence, talking in future tense. Um, but yeah, that's all I got for y'all now. And yeah, till next time.